filtering on the highway. Scary enough. Scary shit, guys. And I had finished my apprenticeship, but of course apprentices who had been at a place had already worked there for what, 2.5, 2 years, 3 years, then they finished their apprenticeship. So they love to give journeymen, at least in German that's what it's called, they love to give them shit, right? They love to tell me what I didn't know and love to bitch about it. It was kind of annoying. So there was some hazing, but not really bad hazing. I think the worst hazing, the apprentices, they tried to fuck with me a little. Because technically, hierarchy-wise, I was above them by a year. And I had already like kind of graduated. But they were still apprentices. But on the other hand, they had to kind of teach me certain things. They had to tell me how to do certain things, and so they considered me being less than they were, which was kind of funny. It was all hierarchy shit, and this is really ridiculous. So since I was kind of big, or I am kind of big and always was, they never really tried picking fights. That wouldn't have gone well for them, I think. There was another journeyman, he had been there for many years. He was like the next in line above me, and he kind of thought he should put me in my place, I think. You know, tied pots and pans together, and I show up in the morning and all my station is kind of fucked up. They like to do that, or he liked to do that. He did that a few times, but you just do it back, which is kind of stupid. I think the worst things, he like tied shit up, like tied stuff together on my workstation. That was probably the worst, and I did some stuff back to him. Basically, the worst things I did to him were
in 300 meters, take the exit on the left.
he always came by bicycle, so I got like a really... Shut the fuck up, you dumb bitch! Yeah, shut the fuck up. I got a padlock from my cousin, and I basically tied up his bike. Tied up is maybe wrong. I just locked it, you know, and he couldn't get home. He had a colleague drive him home, and he got all bitchy next morning. I gave him the key. Another thing was I got like silicone, you know, like to seal stuff. So I used the silicone to like seal, I don't know, edges like around tiles or something. And I poured it in his locker. Poured is wrong, like, you know, it comes with this kind of gun, and I put it around the edge on the locker door, but it only had like 10 hours to harden overnight, and it wasn't hard enough, so he could just rip the locker open. And because he came by bicycle and usually very early, so he took the leftovers and he squished him in the gap between my locker, which obviously didn't work either, because it was already like semi-hard-ish. The worst thing was that he squished it in my padlock, so I couldn't get my key in there. That was fucking stupid. I never really tried to break stuff, you know, when you like tease someone. I never really broke anything. The funniest thing probably that I did, you know, it's not just like hierarchy and people hate each other and play tricks on one another. The worst thing is the waiters and the chefs, right? They hate each other's guts. And we did a lot of crazy stuff, especially to the waiter apprentices. Of course, they were all chicks, that makes the whole thing even funnier if it's women you tease. And the funniest thing I did, we got a lot of game, like a hunter would shoot a deer or boar, bring it to the restaurant, and there was this hunter. Basically we got the game for free. Hunter, like a ranger, you can imagine, like a forester. Does that make sense? He was like really old school, and he would shoot a boar and bring us the boar, and basically we could keep the meat for free. But there's like this dish, this kind of sausage, it's a certain type of sausage. It's kind of weird sausage, not like a fried little one that you guys know, but it's more like pate. Basically you take the boar's head, you skin it, you take you cut the tongue and eye out, and you boil the head. What's that kind of bike? Kind of stretch enduro, the blaster. Fucking look at the exhaust. Stretched, fun bike. The blaster. Slow as fuck. You skin the head, you take the eyes out and the tongue, and you leave the brain in for some reason, and you just boil the whole head. And then once it's boiled for like hours and hours with some vegetable and stuff, you basically peel off any piece of meat that you can find either swimming in the broth or still stuck to the face, like the cheek and stuff and around the chin, and you all stick it in a kind of form, and then you fill it up with some broth, and when it gets cold, the broth kind of turns into this gelatinous stuff, and you can basically cut the sausage very thin, and it's kind of like yummy yummy. And the hunter guy really loved it, and he would like bring us a boar every few weeks, or I don't know, month or two, and we would cook that stuff for him and keep all the meat, and then just as a specialty put the meat on the menu, which is pretty good for the restaurant, right? You can't boil the eyes because they're gonna pop. So we were left with some eyes, right? And you'd be surprised how dry an eye actually is. It's like a little squishy little golf ball. They almost always slimy in the horror movies, but they aren't, I can tell you. Like if you cut that little string thingy on the back and you wash them, they're not so squishy and slimy at all. A ninja. Pretty ninja. That radiator is really long, huh? Is that like a external radiator? Really nice. Like an aftermarket extra radiator. Cool bike. Oh, here's the blaster again. So we had those eyes, and what do we do with those eyes? You walk up to a waiter, be all nice and friendly, and then you stick it in her vest pocket or shirt pocket or something. And the best thing is when they don't realize, right? And then they walk around with a freaking eye in their pocket until they put their hand in the pocket and realize, what the hell is that? Oh my god, that eye! Ah! And they just start screaming their heads off, which is kind of cool, especially when it happens in the restaurant. And the tongue, there was one waiter chick, and she actually lived in the hotel. There was a basement room, like a real shithole. There was like a corridor, and I took the light bulb out in front of her room so she couldn't see very well. It was kind of dark, and I taped the tongue on the handle, on the door handle, so she shows up at night and tries to get in her room, obviously trying to fiddle the key inside, and she touches that handlebar or handle, you know, the door handle, trying to what the fuck, why doesn't the door open, kind of thing. And she keeps touching the tongue, right? And I don't know how squishy it is, but I can imagine quite squishy. And again, she would like scream her head off and get all excited. That was funny. I guess that concludes my stories for today. You may have noticed we drove home from Roppongi all the way almost, I must have recorded like an hour or so, probably too long. I tried to cut it down. Goodbye YouTube. I'm gonna link a Roppongi story, my other Roppongi story I talked about when I used to live there. When I used to work there. I'll talk about that. The highway is a bit clearer, there isn't any filtering. I think it starts to rain at the end. Check out that other video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Riding Japan. Take care guys, see you in another one. Okay guys, here we are, Roppongi, Tokyo Tower. Get the quick peek of it. We're going left and Tokyo Tower gone. So Roppongi by night. Someone asked for a night vlog and I was in Roppongi. We went to a bar. So the guys I went